Hello and a very warm welcome to Great Principles. I am Seema Choria. Our guest today is an exceptional school leader, a teacher, a mentor, a blogger, a writer, and a lifelong learner who desires to make a positive and constructive impact in the field of education. She has been a Teach SDG ambassador for the past 3 years, helping as a leader to build a better humanity. She has been adjudged as finalist of top 50 global teachers by Varkey Foundation in 2016-17 and the Progressive Principal Award by Rethink India. Last year, she was awarded the Iconic Principal Award by Governor of Maharashtra. She has been at the helm of school development since 2009, winning numerous awards and recognition for her schools. Her painstaking efforts have resulted in her schools receiving the International School Award 3 times in 2004, 2017 and 2020 from the British Council. Further, she is the recipient of the School Enterprise Challenge Award as a global winner for starting a business enterprise in school in 2015 and 2017. She has been on the forefront of environment conservation, beach cleanup, compositing and organic farming, and was awarded with the Principal Impact Award by TERI in 2016 for her work in this field. She's a blogger and avid writer, and many of her articles have been published in educational journals. She is the ambassador for India from the European Science Commission and has written a lot on STEM education. She also does workshops for maths and science, and she's a trainer for Cambridge University Council and trains teachers across the Indian subcontinent and has been featured on Learning Planet show of UNESCO. Most recently, her school received accreditation from National Accreditation Board for Education and Training for Quality School Governance in the country. It's our honor and great privilege to welcome Ms. Kavita Sanghvi, Principal, Chaturbhuj Narsi Memorial School, Vilepalli West, Mumbai. Welcome to the show, ma'am. We are truly privileged to have you here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So to begin with, ma'am, we would like to know something about you and your career in education.
So my career in education is actually limited to only 2 schools. I began my career in the school, CNM school, in 2001, where I started with the 5th standard, class teacher 5th standard. Second year, I became a coordinator, moved on to become a coordinator for maths and science, and then examination, board examiner and all that. And then in 2008, I moved on because I was doing my MPhil. And in 2009, I joined Met Rishikul Vidyalaya as the vice principal. And in 2013, I became the principal out there. And 2017, I moved from Rishikul at the end. In 2018, I joined CNM school. And then I became a principal out here. So that's my journey. I began at CNM school and I'm back at CNM school.
Great, ma'am. So, ma'am, this has been a journey in education. Now, the COVID has different impacts on all of us. So, during the lockdown period, staying at home and adjusting to a work from home environment, dealing with uncertainties, what strengths have you found in yourself?
First of all, I've learned that it is very important to take one day at a time, because I used to make this planning for, all this time, everything. Now it's like one day at a time. If this doesn't happen, it's okay. Second is resilience. I knew that no matter what happens, I will be able to come back. So I'm more resilient. And third, I'm much more digitally savvy than I was previously. I make my own PPTs. Everything is done by myself. PPT is very common, but I think when it comes to even acting, putting in animation and PPTs, I'm comfortable now.
So great, ma'am. So I'm sure COVID has given this tech edge to every one of us. And yes, this is the good thing that it has brought in, connecting all of us virtually.
Exactly. And more than that, I think the creativity, because earlier I think we were just working, but now I have actually tried my hand at baking also.
Yeah. So it really has given us a chance to explore our other hidden talents too.
Exactly.
Going ahead, ma'am, what is the philosophy of your school and what makes it unique?
So I guess as is common, every philosophy is basically to make sure that the students are equipped with skills, equipped with social, emotional, physical development, intelligence. That is definitely there. But I think what is unique is a respect for individual differences. That is, I think, very, very important, because we all know how to succeed, but we don't know how to respect and how to accept. And that is something which I believe is standing out, because it is put across people at the foremost. It's put across values, relationships at the foremost, and then everything else. So I think that is what really is different.
Now, very much needed skill for the students today. They really need to understand the value of valuing, This is something we're missing a lot today. So on this note, ma'am, we move ahead to our next. We were just talking about how COVID has digitized all of us. So people in India have become comfortable with mobile computing now. We are witnessing the next phase of digital revolution, in which most talked about subject is spatial computing. Could you explain to our viewers what is spatial computing and its impact on education?
Okay, so now let me give you an example first of all. Let's take a classroom where all the physical resources have become digitally catalogued. So, for example, your chair, your table, everything around is digitally catalogued, and you have sensors and devices everywhere, which is connected to the Internet of Things. For example, this chair has been connected to Internet of Things. So you have a digital map, and that has been merged with the object map. Okay, so you have a digital map, it is entire your school tables, everything, classboard, everything has been merged. Now, when a teacher is carrying her laptop to class, automatically the teacher's chair moves back to accommodate her. Automatically the lights come on. Okay, the interactive board, normally what we use, starts off on her last lesson. Now, if the students are coming up from a sports period, automatically the temperature of the AC will adjust to the student's body temperature. So, and the thing students find their way across. Now, how this has happened is all because of spatial computing. Okay, so spatial computing is nothing but you're entering a three-dimensional world where you are taking augmented reality, you're taking virtual reality, you're taking mixed reality, and you are using physical objects to send in response and take out response. But it's a combination of all of these three. This is the reality for the future. How we're going to be using all of this. So there's a lot I can go on for spatial computing. I think I can really tell you how a class can be taken also in the future.
Yeah, ma'am, just one example, will make it more clear to the viewers that what exactly this concept is and how will this help students in learning, ma'am. Just one small example, if you could.
Okay, let me tell you. We all, and I think all of us are fascinated with the Egyptian civilization. We love talking about mummies and all that. So just imagine, I'm sitting here in a class in Mumbai, and I want to know that how are these mummies and what is the objects which are being put along with mummies, where everything, a mummy looks like, the entire place. So we connect with a museum in Egypt. Now, the museum in Egypt is already connected to spatial computing. It has done every kind of, all its monuments, everything has been connected to spatial computing. Okay. Now, what are we going to do? Our students are going to have a XR, extended reality headsets, which will combine VR, will combine AR, will combine mixed reality. Now, we're sitting out here, that object which somebody is displaying at Egypt, that object is becoming real for me. For example, imagine the mummy is out, this place is, say, I'm just seeing one artifact out there. This artifact is now standing here, and I, all along with the students, can actually see it, feel it, move it around, see the three-dimensional part of it. So I'm actually seeing every 360 degrees about this place. Okay, so what happens is now, it's become real to us. It's no more a photograph to me. It's no more a video to me. It is something I've experienced. If suppose I'm doing a laboratory experience, I'm doing an experiment on hydrogen and sulfur. And we know that when hydrogen and sulfur combine, they form hydrogen sulfide, and we have a smell of rotten eggs. The students actually are doing that hydrogen sulfide. They're getting the smell of the rotten eggs. So now if such a situation is there, do you need a laboratory? You don't. Then I can also vary the amount of hydrogen and sulfur and see what's happening across, when I increase amount of sulfur, or I decrease the amount of hydrogen, or increase about it. So I'm actually able to do mix and match. This is where spatial reality is coming in. The reality. That's our future of education.
Wow, this really, sounds exciting, thrilling, and changing the entire scenario of learning. Students would be so excited to explore new things, and when you experience once, it remains in your memory for a longer duration. You don't easily forget it. So such a beautiful concept.
You know, the world at your footstep, at your step, like dependent on books and Google or anything. You have the world at your step here, at your house.
Exactly. So, so much to explore and learn, and altogether giving a new vertical to education. So COVID has helped in boosting this, opening the new ventures, and ma'am's articles has been published in Brainfeed also on the same. So ma'am knows a lot on this. She has written this, and soon this will be a reality for all of us. Going ahead, ma'am, again, we will be talking about something on pandemic. So pandemic has drastically impacted the education sector, and teachers in India needs to upgrade their skills to meet the standards of current technology and trends. In your opinion, what and how it should be done? Even today, I'm sure there are few teachers who are still apprehensive of using the technology.
Yes. So I think first of all, now, see, a lot of training has happened. I have myself conducted training from different organizations. I think in the lockdown period, I've trained around more than 2,000, 3,000 teachers. But what I've realized is everybody is giving the same thing. It's like, one glove fits all. It's not a case. So what we need to do basically, if we want a training to be successful, is first measuring the competency of every teacher, the skills of every teacher. Maybe someone is good here, someone is not good here. And then based on that, need-based training is very important. And the training has to happen in small number, where there is, after the training, a monitoring system has to happen. So yes, all schools, everybody has passionately put their teachers for training, but the monitoring is what was left behind. So I trained, but after that, I never entered the classrooms to see what the teachers have done with my training. Or nobody's come back to me and told me this part of the training worked, this part did not work. So if that follow-up happens, then it will work. So this is where we're missing out. Second, I've realized we still stick to the old fashion. Like recently, when I was a judge for Rotary's Teachers Award system right now we had, and we asked teachers to send in videos, 2-minute videos of the teaching practices. We still notice the teachers were using the old methodologies. So they're still not able to come out. So somewhere they've learned there's something new, there's competency-based learning, there's skill-based learning, but how to align it within your subject area is missing. They know, okay, I've learned spatial computing. How will I use spatial computing in physics? How will I use it in history? How will I use it in language? That part is not done. And because that part, that alignment and integration is not done, they don't know how to take it back to class and implement. So that hand-holding is required, and that is what is missing.
Yeah, exactly. They have been trained to use Zoom and other tools, Teams, Google Teams and all. But how to, get connected virtually with the students is something which was missed out in the training part. And that is where all the problem is lying, and we are not seeing the output as required. Though few schools have done phenomenally well in this also. So it's not easy, definitely, even for teachers, but everyone is trying their best, and I'm sure
the teachers are wonderful. But the thing is, we have not equipped them with those skills of how to bring it to the classrooms. We have said, we've given you everything, we've shown you everything, now you go back to class. But how can we be so unfair? I mean, how much the teachers are doing to change every lesson to a digital platform has not been easy. It's been
It is definitely, ma'am. So going ahead, ma'am, there is a lot of buzz around STEM these days, and we are wondering what all the fuss is about. So we would like to know why STEM education is important in 2021.
STEM, if you notice, around every single thing of ours is connected to STEM. Today, you and me talking is STEM. It's because the digital platform has provided us that resource, okay? If I am using my mobile, it's STEM. Every single aspect of mine around this room, the net, the computer, my pen, my table, everything is STEM. And if you notice right now, everything is on social media. Data analysts are you need the data. Right now, when you're saying that, when students come back, you need to measure learning gaps. When you're doing the learning gaps, how are you going to do it? You need a data analyst, okay? There is augmented reality. There's machine learning. There is, as I said, spatial computing. There are generation operation, managers. There are social media managers. Now, social media also, when you put it across, at what time of the day is the social media, what are you putting up, getting maximum mileage? That also is STEM, no? You're checking out, you're again analyzing your data. Okay, so every single thing is STEM related. The STEM jobs are on the high. Your world is directed and controlled by STEM. So this is future of STEM. And if you don't see STEM in every single thing, then you will have a problem. You'll not be able to adjust to the new life ahead. So STEM, as I said, is every single place. And it's just nothing but connecting your day-to-day concepts to that. So that's why STEM is very, very important.
Absolutely, ma'am. Very beautifully explained the concept that is around everywhere. So it is inevitable, now that STEM is the part of our daily lives.
Yeah. Say, suppose, for example, my mobile doesn't work very well. I need to understand, what happened? My memory has become too less, or is my GB too high? What I've downloaded is too high. Again, isn't that STEM? So a normal, regular person who doesn't know anything also has now understood this.
Right. Great, ma'am. So, ma'am, there is a huge list of your accomplishments, ma'am. There are so many recognitions being given to you. So, ma'am, which accomplishment you are most proud of?
I think I feel like when I write something and people appreciate that writing, I think that is something that I feel very good about. So I think when awards come and go, but when your writing is appreciated, because the pen is mightier than the sword. And when people have read that thing, somewhere it has gone, and then somewhere they will use it. So that gives me a lot of joy when someone says, yeah, maybe adaptive thinking, or maybe assessment for learning, maybe so many articles I've written, and I have used it in my classroom. I think that really makes me feel good.
Ma'am, would you give us a glimpse of your favorite piece?
So, my favorite piece, even today, is when I talk about STEM is everywhere. So, and maybe high STEAM is something that I'm very, very proud about, where I connect history with STEM. So I always tell people that it's a very common thing which I talk about everywhere, that STEM was available, existent even earlier. When you go into Colosseum, and when you have this huge thing, Colosseum, and people are fighting and all that, there were 50,000 people out there. And still they had no mics, but the voice was carried across everywhere. How do you think the Colosseum was built? Now, the Colosseum, after 2,000 years, is still lasted. What material was it built about that it is still lasted? And today, our buildings are falling apart. Understand what is the science that they used, and find out the history and what made them do that. We say the entire architectural marvels of the previous world. Till today, we've not been able to copy them.
Yeah.
So what is it about it? What is that things that they've done? Let's study the science. Let's study the history behind it. So that high STEAM is something which I feel very, very passionate about. Combine history with STEAM.
So ma'am's writing always reflects her passion and her in-depth research, which she does, and then she puts up in her writing. So no wonder ma'am is very proud of her writings. So going ahead, ma'am, this brings to me to the very interesting segment of the show, which is called Rapid Fire Round. You have to answer in one word only. Okay. So here comes the first question. Maths or science, which is more important?
Science.
All right. Name a school principal you admire the most?
Jaya Parekh.
What is the right form of education? One model for all or individualized learning?
Individualized.
Do students need to be evaluated?
Yes.
Do marks matter more than skills?
No.
What do you feel are the three most important skills to become a teacher?
First of all, a passion to learn and unlearn, because every now and then you're going to be changing. Things are going to change for you. Second is to be able to connect. Connection is very, very important. A connection with your students, connection with your team members, with your staff, with your principal, everywhere. So connection, relationship building. And third is basically enjoy what you're doing. I think that's very important. Because if you enjoy being in that class, if you enjoy doing your worksheets, if you enjoy doing the corrections, then you're going to be a fantastic teacher.
Great, ma'am. So even one word, you have given us a lot of insights. Going ahead, ma'am, we've talked about your professional front, your work. Now let us know something what you like to do when you're not working. So what are the hobbies or sports you're involved in and why do you enjoy them?
So I walk a lot. So I'm a little free, I just walk around Mumbai. I just walk out and I don't know where I reach then. So that is something I do that. Second is writing. Like not many know that I even write love stories. So I write those things also. So I like writing. It brings around my characters, and I feel very happy when I see write those things. So yeah, writing and walking.
Great. So ma'am is an avid writer and yes, so keep walking keeps her healthy also. So these are her two hobbies. Now going ahead to the last question. This is also called viewers choice question, ma'am. How can school help students in cultivating a rich and meaningful connection with nature?
I think first of all, one believes that nature is to be nurtured, and that nurturing comes within the curriculum. So it's not that it has to be an external activity, it has to be within the curriculum. So if I'm talking about plants to my students, which is normally everywhere, I actually have a field visit, I actually have students grow plants, actually, understand the value of it. If I'm doing, say, I'm talking about pollution, and I actually have students going to the beach and do a beach cleanup drive, then they will understand the value of it. So when students have really picked up the garbage there, then they know that what it feels to pick it up every day. When I speak about education excursion, and I have this excursion concern in such a way that I'm allowing them to feel nature, touch things, because in Mumbai, what happens is we are not touching anything. We're not feeling, we're not even smelling anything. Okay. So if we go there and we actually lie down on the grass, we feel that oneness with the nature. So some environmental trips planned around that. So within the curriculum, when the teachers incorporate SDG goals, okay, automatically things will happen because students on their own are filled with values. They are very innocent. They will do everything. They just need to be shown the path. Somewhere along the line, with mark-driven curriculum, we have forgotten to show that line to them. So that's all that's needed.
So ma'am, as you said that due to this curriculum framework, this is being left out. So how can school contribute in creating a future where people are fully invested in the well-being of their natural environment and fellow human beings?
So that's what I said, earlier we used to have a subject called environment education, but then now that is dropped. So if SDG goals becomes a part of your curriculum, then it is easy to become an entire school which is filled with values and all that. Second, it all comes from observing another. I may talk a lot, but if I'm carrying plastic bags to school, then it doesn't make sense. So you will learn more by observing and less by speaking. So if everybody becomes a role model for themselves, then I think it works faster. And getting a second is having a community, have your parents in it. So it's important that they just don't live in silos and say, we are teachers, we are school, we do it. No, it has to be community effort. It has to be connection with the parents, with the management. Everybody comes together and then things take up. Otherwise, it doesn't happen.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Sustainable then.
Parents are an integral part of the community and we all can, participate and help to conserve environment. Someone told me recently that, in future, the highest paying jobs will be related to nature. So it's very much required for our students to learn about nature and to conserve this.
Exactly, because what is going to be rare is going to be valued. And if you're not valuing it right now, you will have to end up valuing it much more then.
Yeah. So better inculcate better habits and preserve nature today itself.
Yes, definitely.
So thank you so much, ma'am. It was really, really wonderful session with you. There is so much to learn, but given the time frame, we cannot go on with this. So it was really very insightful discussion, and I'm sure that my viewers will have so much thoughts and guidance from this. So thank you so much for your time, ma'am. It was wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much. And I also had a lot of fun talking with you. So thank you to everyone out there, and hope to see you all again.